Great. Hi, everyone. I'm not really here to share a story so much as I was invited to share from Bethany about something I and some friends of mine are building up in Albuquerque on Tiwa land, about 2 hours north of us here. And first, I just want to acknowledge and give thanks to this land we're on, and Bethany and everyone hosting today. And yeah, I was invited to share like a part of what I was moved to do, which it totally came through just personal path of my own intimate losses that were quite sudden, of my mother when I was 32, and then just a year later my best friend passed from an accidental OD, and just knowing them, because they were kind of like they were my people in the world and my family in many ways, and to have those two intimate pillars and beings in my life just kind of ripped away at such a young age in my early 30s. That was, I wouldn't say it was the beginning of the path, but it certainly just kind of ripped the lid off and led me into, I think, well, first the realization of how little support there is for the grieving in our communities. And while I did find some beautiful books to read and some online resources, I know in my direct experience, and being one that does not have much wealth, I couldn't access much support for what I was going through, which is also what I had to witness my dear friend go through in his path that kind of led him down a path of addiction that I think had he had more witnesses and support, perhaps it didn't have to go down a certain way that it did with him. And so those experiences led me, once I got here to New Mexico, into exploring what does it look like to create what I call grief sanctuary. And that's, I mean, there's no fixed definition to it. It's more of just an experimental way of like, how do we create more presence and attention and support for the grieving, starting with self and moving into our communities. And so some tangible ways that we're exploring that now is actually starting next Saturday, the 20th, we're hosting grief cafes. Oh, can everyone hear me? Great, sorry. Yeah, and that's just an opportunity for the community, if their way is to share through their words. I know not all choose that way, but it's an opportunity for us to just gather and listen and travel with what hurts us. And grief is a very large term for me. It doesn't just mean death. I think we can easily associate grief just with death, which of course that's included. But there's loss of our homes, there's loss of our communities, there's loss of for the queer community when they come out and they don't have the support they need, and there's just so many iterations that it might look like. And so what we're doing is exploring and just opening up those awkward, hard conversations that a lot of people, because including myself, we didn't grow up in environments where we could explore that safely. We're trying to explore doing that in a supported, reverent way with each other. So yeah, and I brought a quote, if it's all right, to share from one of my favorite authors, Bell Hooks, which she really speaks to some of the disturbance I felt in my own path. Sometimes it amazes me to know intuitively that the grieving are all around us, yet we do not see any overt signs of their anguished spirits. We're taught to feel shame about grief that lingers. Like a stain on our clothes, it makes us as flawed, imperfect. To cling to grief, to desire its expression, is to be out of sync with modern life, where the hip do not get bogged down in mourning. And for me, traveling with grief is traveling with life and love, and it's all just kind of, woven into the life experience, I feel. So we're also exploring creating residencies where people who need to just drop into the land and be held and seen and to create or get their hands in the dirt, they can just come and be supported in community. So thank you for listening, and thank you for the invitation to share. And if anybody's curious to connect, please do. So thanks.